You mentioned that you went to Vienna. It sounds like your research process and idea development process involves you going to some of these places and really immersing yourself in what's going on there and what these museums and different places and cathedrals are like and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach it?
I'm very lucky to be here in the UK, close to Europe. And so I went over to Vienna, and the plan was to go visit the Spear of Destiny in the Hofburg Museum where it is, but that I would also go to some other places and I see what emerges. I have actually on my wall here, it says trust emergence. Sometimes you don't necessarily know what the story's going to be. So I went, saw the Spear of Destiny. It was crazy. There was no one else there. There was the tooth of John the Baptist. There was all these
I
crazy
saw that.
things in the
Okay.
museum, and I was like, okay, this is weird. But then what was very interesting is that I walked out of that museum, turned a corner, and there is this incredible library, the State Library of Austria in Vienna. It is just nearby. I went in there on a whim because I was passing, and it was incredible. I just had to set a scene there, and there's a fight scene where the spear is kind of taken, and I was like, okay, wow. And I never would have known that if I hadn't have gone there. And the other interesting thing is that I also wanted to bring in Washington, D.C. So one of the other modern parallels is the rise of a sort of right wing in the USA. So
Right.
one of the characters in the book is a general who wants the spear so he can use it as part of his campaign for the presidency of the US. I was in Washington, D.C. a few years ago, and I went to the Library of Congress, which is fantastic, and wandered around there. And I was like, I have to use this in a story. I don't know what though. And what was amazing, I mentioned Tibet before, is that the rushes, the raw footage of the Nazis in Tibet is in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., as well as Hitler's own personal book collection, which includes books on magic and the occult. And I was like, oh, wow, that is such a great coincidence, synchronicity, as Carl Jung would say, but just super exciting. So I was able to link Vienna, Tibet, Washington, D.C., as well as some other places because things actually did happen that way. So this
Mm.
is part of why I love to travel. Obviously, I just love to travel, and I take a lot of photos, which are useful, obviously, to put on social media. And I always write an author's note as well, because a lot of my readers enjoy Googling after they've read the book. They want to know what's based on fact. And I think that's another hallmark of our genre, is that we just love the research